For this video, I want to talk about pocket knives. Very controversial carry item, but also probably the most carried everyday item other than obviously wallet, phone, and keys. Once we're kind of expanding beyond the obvious wallet, phone, and keys, most people add a knife first, thinking, oh, now I'm being all prepared and such. And a knife is amazing to have. I use my flashlight way more. But a knife is a very useful thing, and there's some do's and don'ts. So I'm going to show some practical ones and some that are very much impractical. So we are going to start with the absolute worst. Something like this. It is hideous, it is ugly, it doesn't open very well because it's poorly made. Oh my goodness, this would be so embarrassing to accidentally get cut or hit with. This is just horrible. This is a gas station knife. It is heavy, it is clunky, it's sharp, but oh goodness gracious, have some common self-respect. The only reason I have this is that one of my students on a playground had it, and now he doesn't have it, and I do. Again, with the impractical ones, this is adorable and cute. I even made a little grip for it because it is so small. Not very practical. It is a fidget toy pretty much. That is a very small blade, which is perfectly fine for most of what we're going to do. Most of what you're going to use is to cut plastic zip ties, open up Amazon boxes, cut little strings, maybe a rope, maybe a paracord. Let's face it, most of us are not using a knife to do much more than open packages and very minor work. If you're carrying a pocket knife for defensive reasons, you're probably going to need something much bigger than this though. And I am not huge on the double action out the front ones unless you're going to spring for a really expensive version. And I can show you a decent quality one at the end of the video. I would not recommend something like this, but it is still better than that horrible gas station knife. Now, getting kind of fancy. Oh, look at this. This is a fantastically beautiful work of art. This is a handcrafted knife that is elk bone. Nice. It is handmade in Alaska. Be merry. This is one of the traditional ulu style blades. It's got that nice curve that makes it really good for cutting. I've definitely used it to cut up cheese and sausages and summer sausages and such. Sliced a few apples. It does pretty well, but because it is so wide with this grip and it is fairly heavy, it's not really a practical thing because this feels like you're carrying a rock in your pocket. It's a perfect size, but it's just not comfortable to carry. So I would not advise it. Also, it's a very expensive knife. This knife, if you were to go to Alaska and buy it, it's probably going to be about $80, $90. I have lost so many pocket knives over the years. Dropped them where I couldn't get them when I was doing construction, fell out of my pocket. Stuff happens. You don't want to be having a super expensive knife in your carry unless you're just making so much that you really don't mind if you lose, a $100 knife. Last of the really impracticals, butterfly knives. They can be a lot of fun. You can, if I had my camera further away, I could show like all sorts of little tricks. They are technically able to be opened with one hand. You need a lot of space to do it. And they are supposed to lock, but if you use them a lot, that lock mechanism will definitely get weak over time. And I would not want to trust that lock to hold it open. It's just not a practical thing. It's beautiful. This one with the metal handles, they're very thick steel handles. It's definitely heavy as well. Another thing that I don't like in a carry pocket knife is I don't want it to be heavy. You're also going to get a lot of stares. Now, I live in a state where I can carry this. I can carry a fully automatic switchblade. I can carry just about anything I want in Texas. But this just isn't it for a practical use. Yes, it'll open up your Amazon boxes. Yes, it'll cut the strings, but it's right up there with a gas station knife in actual practicality. Now let's get into practicals. This is 5 minutes in. This is where you would want to start if you actually cared. So this is a fantastic choice. You can get these at Harbor Freight. You can get them at a hardware store, but it is a razor blade knife. They are a really, really handy type of knife to have because you can always have a sharp blade. Some of them will let you have the blade either in a little bit, or you can be a little bit less secure and have the blade out more because they will have 2 levels on it. So you can technically have the blade out like that, or you can have it out in like this. I like to keep it close. This is really good for breaking down cardboard boxes. This is really good for crafts. If you're only using this to open up boxes, or if you work in a warehouse, this is definitely the kind of knife I would recommend. It has a really good pocket clip. It has a really sturdy locking action. It's that old, like the old Buck 110 knife type, the back lock. It's a great knife. It is heavy though, and that is why I don't carry it all the time, is that it is very heavy. It is seriously too heavy for me to comfortably carry. So talking about heavy knives, this is another one that is beautiful. It is fantastic. It does everything you need to do, but because this is all stainless steel, I don't carry it. It's a brick. This is the CRKT Pilar. I really like a knife with a broad, flat cutting area because I will use my knives to slice cheese or cut up food whenever I'm traveling. It will do boxes fantastically. It has just enough curve to cut up cardboard. Definitely good for string. The stuff that you're actually going to use a pocket knife for, this is good. And if you were to get one with G10 or nylon scales, this would probably be a great one to get. People tend not to be as upset if you have a pocket knife out. Say you're at a park and you're slicing yourself some cheese or cutting up an apple. They're not going to be really intimidated by something this small. If you're living in one of the non-free states, this is definitely going to be, even California legal. But my only problem with this is that it is too heavy. It's a beautiful knife and I like it. I just don't really carry it very often because of the weight. So now let's get into really practical knives. I will do this one. This is one I carry in one of my tool bags a lot. It matches my tool bag, and I might do a review of my tool bag at some point because it's kind of neat. This is, again, my idea was I wanted a very lightweight pocket knife, small, that does not necessarily scare people. I don't want to have a pocket knife that is intimidating. So it has that thumb opening. So none of that fast clicky stuff. Has kind of that matte finish, a bead blasted finish. So it's not super shiny, doesn't scream stabby or anything. It has a point. It can poke, but it's definitely geared more toward cutting, which is what I want it for. This is a Civivi. I think this one is called the Mini Banter is what it is. And it is a fantastic knife. It has a really good G10 grippy scales, which I like. It has the important stuff like this knurling here, has some here. I would not want to really carry my finger here using it. I'm probably going to use it like this most of the time as I'm slicing stuff, but if my finger is here, this little texture here makes me feel really secure that my finger's not going to come up and get hurt on the knife. So Civivi is another great brand that I would highly recommend. Getting into, I really love the shape of this one. It is just too big. This is like gas station knife size. This is their Praxis. Looks like it would have a good grip, but their full-size Praxis, that is almost no grip. That is very slick, which is something I do not like about it. I do like the black blade, but this is just too big. Good news is I can get a really good full handle grip on it. It has kind of a tang there that kind of protects you, not tang, a cross guard almost. You're not going to have your hand slide up as you're working with it, but this is just too big for a good pocket knife. I have carried this before. This is, if I am going to carry a pocket knife, that I would want to be for defensive purposes, this would be a good choice. But I don't like it mainly because the grip is not grippy, and I feel that this is just too big and cumbersome for everyday tasks. Which brings me to my actual carry, and then I'll show two honorable mentions at the end of the video. This is my actual carry, which is the exact same knife, but it is in the Mini. This is the Praxis Mini. What's fantastic about it is that that grip is actually much more like you would have on their Mini Banter. It is a very grippy G10 grip. It has a very crisp, clean opening. It has that beautiful steep belly. It makes it good for slicing. It comes to, I think, a better point really than the full-size Praxis. And it has a nice deep carry clip. You can carry that completely in your pocket. And while, yes, it is shiny, it is more pointy than some of the others, it's still small enough that it's not particularly threatening. Well, it is big enough that it could be used defensively. But if you're using a pocket knife as your defensive weapon, your day has really gone bad, and you made some bad decisions most likely that led to that. I like this. This is definitely my everyday pocket knife. I love it, and I would recommend this one the most. In a second, I will do the honorable mentions. And here we are with two honorable mentions. I'm going to start with this here. This is a Smith & Wesson out the front. It is a very heavy knife. It has a glass breaker on one end. It has a pocket carry clip, which is nice. It has, as it is an out the front, it has a lock on it right here at the back. You can press it over here, and now it will not go forward. And if I pull the lock, it's very stiff. It doesn't usually get used very often. It will go out the front. Now, what I like about this one, other than it is Smith & Wesson, is a more reliable brand, although their firearms are far better than their knives, is that it is a out the front only. It is a out only, and to pull it back, it is not a in and out. It's a single action. So to pull it out, we have to, that lever here will release the lock, and then we have to physically drag it back with this spring guide. Now that makes it much slower to close, but it also makes it far, far, far less physically complicated. Where I live here in West Texas, there is a lot of dust, very, very fine dust that will get in everything and need lots of cleaning. I can take this apart with some very small T screws, and I have done that a couple times. Cleaned it, lightly oil it. Gun oil works really well. Just a quick spray of Rimwall. And it's a great knife. This is actually my wife's walking knife. But I would not carry this for every day because even though that's very fun and it has those two blades, this is an excellent defensive knife. And she hates firearms. So this is her Smith & Wesson that she carries. But it's not really good for most everyday use. You could cut a box with it, and she has opened boxes with it before, but it's more of a people opener than a box opener. So you can't put your finger on the actual blade to help cut down into stuff. It comes to a very, very fine point that could probably break if you were cutting on stuff too hard. This is just not a really practical everyday carry. And for most people, I hope that you would carry something either in a millimeter style or a caliber style instead of this if you were carrying for defense. This is not a very utilitarian. So here is actually, you can see that this was very well worn. It has some rugged patina on it, especially on the clip. This was my carry knife for about 3 or 4 years. This is the CRKT Offbeat 2. It does not have a spring in it. It's not a very quick opening, but it has that nice thumb stud. Opens smoothly. I can do it fairly quickly as well. But it's not a very fast opening knife. It doesn't need to be. It has that long straight edge, which I really like for being able to cut down. I have had so many cheeses and apples and sausages. I can tell probably I like to snack. This is a great snacking knife. This is great for box opening. It does have a tip for getting into very small things. Could it be a people opener? Sure, but it's still really not its purpose. It is much more utilitarian. It has a nylon, I think it's like a paper nylon or something. Anyway, it is a nylon handle that is very tough. It has a good grip texture, but it is not quite as dense of a grip texture as my main carry now. What I really like about this is that I like things that are a little bit unique. I am not a huge fan of the liner lock that is super popular. I prefer the lock that is on the back of the blade, like on this. This is what I had whenever I started carrying a knife when I was about 10 years old. I carried an old Buck 110 and they had this back lock. What's really nice is if I'm pushing that back lock, is very difficult for my hand to be in the way of the blade. Whenever I am closing a liner lock, you have to be careful because it is very possible for your hand to be in the way as you close it. Now the good news is very seldom do you have to close a knife as fast as you might need to open it. So fast open, slow close, that's fine. But this one has the best of both worlds with a very unique back lock. Instead of having it back here, there's a spring that is attached to this thumb stud here. And so I can press up on that spring and it will actually break the lock. It has a little bit of roughness. I sanded it with some sandpaper, made it super smooth. There's no grit on this one anymore, but it locks. It's incredibly tough, and I don't have to worry about having my fingers in any chance of it being cut whenever I close it, because this is the way to close it, which is a very unique way. I like things that are a little bit different, and that just kind of tickles something in my artistic brain. Now, the problem with this, and one of the reasons I started switching, is that I had many occasions where somebody would ask to borrow a knife. Here, I have one, great. And then they could see how to open it, great, and then they did not know how to close it, because this is like probably the only knife that closes this way. And they would have to hand me back the open blade. And in some knife cultures, that's kind of rude. If they hand you a closed knife, you're supposed to hand it back closed. So they really didn't like that. And most people are very familiar nowadays with the liner lock, where it's right here on the side. They can see to push it, and people are much more familiar with that. I still prefer the back lock, or this unique back lock. And this is a very light knife too, which is why I like it. The two reasons I stopped carrying it so much is, one is it's very difficult for other people to understand how to use this if they haven't seen it before. And the other reason is that the blade is 440 steel. So you can see it's taken a slight bend. And I haven't used this particularly hard. This is not something that I use for prying or anything like that. It's just bent from regular use. Whereas this is D2 carbon tool steel. Slightly more likely to rust, but definitely much tougher blade. It's also a little bit thicker. I'm not worried about this taking a bend in the tip. So those are my honorable mentions.